Controlled Chaos here. I got a great interview. This is a bit different than the interviews I do. I am interviewing Dave Strefling from Stars Reach. He is the HR manager for the company. How are you doing today, Dave?
Justin.
Justin, I'm sorry. We were talking about Dave. My got flipped.
We were just talking about Dave Georgeson and David Pitkin. No, I'm doing really well. It's Friday. Work's going well. So pretty good day.
That's excellent. So is this your first time working in game development as HR or in game development in general, or have you done that in the past?
First time working in game development in general. And it's just, I've always really loved video games, and I saw the opportunity in LinkedIn a couple of years ago, and things just worked out perfectly.
So you asked for the whiplash upon yourself on this whole entire thing.
It's been a pretty big roller coaster, and they even warned me during the interviews. They were like, "Hey, there's going to be high highs and low lows, so buckle up."
Oh yes. So how much of a shock was it of the changes you had to do in looking at the way that you do normal HR?
It was definitely a huge change. I had done human resources. Well, I was originally a litigation attorney in Los Angeles, and then got into human resources. And I had done manufacturing, call centers, even like a backroom HR, small HR company that did HR for other companies. But not doing anything with games was definitely a big difference. Needing to speak with a lot of the engineers to understand the job roles, speak with a lot of the employees to understand what they do on a day-to-day basis. It was all really big for me to do that immediately. So I understood when they came to me with questions or problems.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've worked several jobs, and in the middle was call center work. I remember the HR people there, and it varied based on the type of call center. If it was the call center where it was shoulder to shoulder, their HR was very lackluster. If they gave you the big luxury, spacious cubicles that you could sort of sit in and actually lean back and relax as you're helping out customers, decent HR. It wasn't until I started working in the games industry that I saw that HR had a different role and had to step differently. I noticed that the HR in the games industry is stepping more on eggshells and has to be careful where they step because of what we're working on. Because, for example, when I was working at a company, it was the first time HR was coming in, and HR was new to seeing game development themselves because the company's originally a temp agency, but they'd worked to get a contract with a big company to do game testing. They'd actually gotten the contract, and so this was the first time HR was coming in. So a bunch of us decided to pull a prank and saying, "Warning to HR's mental health beyond this point is not guaranteed." And we stuck it on the door. And so the person at the front desk let them in because, we had a security area where you had to badge in because we had security or tier 1 and tier 2 areas of information of, intellectual properties and games being worked on. And so definitely. They're being let in, and they're now in tier 2, and they're getting sick and tired of seeing these signs of mental health risk increasing when they went into tier 2. And they're holding the sign, and they're like, "We don't like seeing these around here. These should not be put up, even as a joke." And then all of a sudden, someone bursts out, I see breasts on the screen. Can someone confirm that I'm seeing breasts? We need to make sure that there's no nipples on these breasts. And just stuff like that. And the HR person comes running up. They're like, you're not supposed to talk about that. My office now. And they get dragged to the office. The general manager comes in and explains the whole entire thing of, look, they were talking about bug. This is an E for everyone's game. You cannot be showing private parts like breasts in an E for everyone game. It needs to be an NC-17 game. And so they're just doing their due diligence. They weren't goofing around. They weren't being pornographic or sexual whatsoever. They were just doing their job. And they're like, really prove it. Okay, fine. Come back. They'll show you the bug. And they'll show you that they're doing their job. And so they go back and they show the bug. And there's like, does this happen all the time? And then the guy that mentored me and taught me, who's a black guy, for, just to let everyone know, not that it's normally important, but for this story it is. He walks up to her and goes, yes, it's very important, because I found a bug in another game where there's a bunch of merchants, but the black merchants would only carry watermelons. That's a racist thing, a racist stereotype. So we needed to fix that. If a regular HR person hears me saying that, they're going to think I'm racist until they look at the color of my skin. So therefore, that's where HR needs to step lightly. Have you ran into any problems like that? And how did you adjust and pivot?
Well, and I think one of the best things about Playable Worlds is from like day one that I started here, the executive team really reinforced that, hey, we pride ourselves on being a very diverse company. We are everyone that we're hiring understands like where we're going and understands how the company is made up. And I think that really has translated over to any of our stand-up meetings, any like department meetings and everything, where people understand how things affect other people's feelings. And hey, maybe I don't really mean it this way, but someone else could take it that way. And I think all of our employees are really good on that. I did see, it's funny because I was reorganizing the files a little while ago, and there had been like an incident where someone had used a different term for like pillaging worlds, and someone was offended by that. And it was something that was like cleaned up immediately. And like, it was like, HR stepped in, and that person actually, took steps even before HR stepped in. They had heard the other person was offended by it, and they went straight directly to that person. So I'm really lucky in that regard that everyone like understands that everyone has feelings, and you can affect those by the use of your like vocabulary. Different things do need to be said, because with gaming, it's literally a whole nother world, and but I think this company's been very good about it.
Yeah, I can sense that because of how they all talk about each other with high reverence. They all respect one another. And, it felt like if someone missaid something to someone else or used a term that someone else didn't like, that they would come up and they would naturally apologize, which means that, so when do you start normally working, and when does your vacation end since you started? Or, it's that kind of thing. Your job's so easy, you're not having to do the normal HR stuff that you expect HR to do, of handle rough situations and people not getting along and stuff like that. So yours is probably more behind the scenes stuff then.
Yeah, and you know what? In previous jobs, especially like I worked for a huge foundry that had like 1,500 employees, and in those type of situations, I did have a lot more employee and relations issues where I had to do actual investigations, talk to witnesses and everything like that. And I really haven't had that so much here. I would say a bigger part of my job is that everyone is working so hard on this game and so hard to get it out and get all of the fans and the community playing it and everything, that we're more worried about people overworking themselves. And so on any given week, I try to check in with several different employees just to see, hey, how are you doing? Do you feel overworked? Do you have any questions? Do you think it would be what do you think would be beneficial to have with discussions with your manager or anything like that? And also I always want to make sure that they know, hey, you can do that. You can come to me anonymously, and we can have a full conversation, and we don't need to go and talk to your manager. And you know what, I can say something where, hey, we've had issues with employees, instead of naming names or anything like that. So really, the communication is really a huge key to my role here at Playable Worlds, and staying up to date with how the employees are doing. And that might not necessarily just be with work. There might be personal issues where, hey, I haven't been feeling, really into working, and I'm kind of falling behind on things. Well, hey, let's talk to your manager. We don't have to tell them what was the personal issue, but we can tell them, hey, I need a few days off, and it doesn't have to affect your work. Everybody's human, and you just have to always keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and that's what I like to hear, because I've worked with some HR places that they just see you as a cog, a piece of equipment, and they treat you that way. They treat you as a number. The places I like is where even the higher ups would know your name. When I worked at Microsoft Game Studios as a tester, Andrew Franklin, who at the time was the vice president, actually knew my name. And I was impressed by that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is really awesome.
And HR, I got along with HR, and my boss would always joke around with me. And that's sort of if I were working at another place for another company instead of for myself, the first place I'd go is Playable Worlds, because of the people in the environment that I just feel talking to all the people there. Working under Dave Jordan, I know I'd be laughing all the time, just like I did with my boss at the Microsoft Game, one of my test leads at the Microsoft Game Studios. I laughed under him all the time, even when he pulled a prank on me, where I thought I was in deep trouble. And he came up to me, in my office now, stomped arm. I'm like, oh shit, what did I do?
Yeah.
Get in there, and he's like, just to let you know, you're doing a great job. Have a seat. Mid-change, all of a sudden, I'm like, he looks at my face and just sees total shock, confusion, and he's laughing his ass off. He goes, I did that just for fun. I wanted to let you know you're doing a great job. Keep it up. I know you have this disability of cerebral palsy and you're working on a Kinect game. You don't need to do that. You have the controller. Use the controller. I know your partner has been out, so you've been doing the work of two people as one person with this disability. I've seen you running back and forth of, running in place and jumping, and then go right the bug, and then get back up and, jump and dodge and all this other kind of stuff. Take it easy. I looked at him and I said, well, if I use the controller, that's not mimicking what a real representation of the person is doing, because they won't have access to the controller. That code's getting taken out before it goes live. Therefore, I'm not doing my job and finding all the bugs I can be. That's why my bug count is so high. Quit being so smart and being right all the time. Let's go to the meeting and then you can get yourself back to work. I'm like, okay. He goes out holding a controller, and we have this meeting. And it's like, okay, everyone, you see this controller here and how you're able to use it to play the game? None of you are allowed to use this anymore. I see you using this 90% of the time. The only person that is allowed to do that is controlled chaos here because of his disabilities, and he's doing the job of two as one person because the person I was working with had gotten fired, and they were trying to find my replacement partner, and they found him, just wasn't available for another like 2 weeks. And the great thing is once again, it was my mentor who spoke up about, the watermelon thing that we talked about last. And so we had a killer time. Always had a killer time working with him because we would just sort of, if there was no like sound to listen to and we needed to focus on something else, we would share an earphone and listen to like heavy metal and be head banging as we're writing up test notes and stuff like that. It just had a killer time. And then his mentor was Evan Berkby, who's very famous in the games industry as building test facilities. He built Cryptic's test facilities, EA's test facilities, and their test ways of testing. So I was under good names, but enough stories about sort of like what I've dealt with. What I want to know is when and how did you get into video games?
Oh, well, first off, those were pretty impressive stories. Those were really cool. When did I get into video games? It was when I was, super young. Like, started with Mario and had that original NES. Also had a Sega Genesis at the time, and was really into like all of those Nintendo games, like Donkey Kong and Duck Hunter and all of those. But like my favorite area where I really played games a lot was in high school, where we still weren't like playing on the internet and everything. But we would play like two of my buddies, we would play all of the Curse of Monkey Islands. And like we would go, like all be kind of in the same place and go home, and the next day report back in and be like, oh, I was able to get here, I was able to do this, I was able to do this, and it was just really cool, like being involved with other people and like, the earliest kind of form of community of like going and talking to everybody and just being excited and sharing like hints and stuff. So that was like where I really got, hooked on video games.
Okay, cool. Did you ever do LAN party? And for those who are too young to know what a LAN party is, because us old folk just are too crotchety, what LAN party is you bring a bunch of computers to one location and then you hook them together in sort of like a daisy chain of Ethernet cords and create sort of a local network. And this is how we did multiplayer games before the internet. In fact, the Xbox 360 has the capability to do that kind of situation. Did you ever do LAN parties?
Well, and like one funny story is like I was in a fraternity in college, and like they would like in separate rooms hook wires to go through the windows and, like on the third floor into other rooms, so all the computers were all hooked up. And so no, definitely, we and like it was like, let's order a bunch of pizzas, let's get some Mountain Dew, and let's just stay up all night.
Yep. Or Jolt Cola. You ever have Jolt Cola?
I did. That was way stronger than Mountain Dew.
Oh, yeah.
That would really keep you up.
I worked at a tech support call center, and they had freezer or refrigerators full of Jolt Cola that you could drink for free.
For free?
For free.
Oh, man. People are like going home shaking at the end of the day,
Oh, that's not a lie. I remember I was walking out with my friend April, and we're getting ready to go to lunch. And there's my friend sitting there shaking at the keyboard, trying to type notes. And he's off the call, but trying to finish up notes. And we're like, what's wrong? And he's like, 2 Jolt Colas and a Monster. Don't do that. And I'm like, you sure you're okay? He's like, yeah, I'll see you at lunch. I saw him at lunch, and this is a guy who does not dip his fries. He likes to put the ketchup on one fry at a time. This time, it was more ketchup on the hand than the fry. And so...
That caffeine.
Oh, yeah. He swore he's never going to do that again. Now, how did you find out about Stars Reach?
And so, you know what? Had no idea about it, but I had played like Ultima Online. And so, like, in the ad that I saw on LinkedIn, like I had just gotten done with a job. My contract had ended as a HR consultant, and I was looking for jobs pretty much like in every field. And I saw it online on LinkedIn, and it had talked about Ralph Coster, you know, the like true creator of Ultima Online. And I was like, oh, whoa, this, like, even if this doesn't work out, if I can somehow get to an interview with Ralph, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
you know?
That's like a dream, right?
Right. And I was like, at least I can say, like, I talked to him. And even then, like, preparing for the interviews, I was like going back and listening to podcast after podcast of Raf's and like reading his book and stuff, even though I didn't understand a lot of the technical like terminology, you know, I was like, at least I'll have something to talk about. So really that was like how I found out about Stars Reach was, you know, going to the interviews and like talking with the entire, Playable Worlds team.
Yeah, it was sort of a dream when I got to be able to sit down and chat with Raph, and got invited into the content creators play with the devs video that was done like 5-6 months ago. I remember that very, very well because my instructor for game design called me up and said, I hate you. You got to meet the one person in game development I wanted to meet my whole entire life before I did. Go die. Laughs and then hangs up. I immediately called him back and said, dude, it was just a luck chance. You know?
Yeah.
You know, he's just like asking a bunch of questions then. And I spent on the phone with him like for an hour talking about our experience, because we were both loved Ultima Online and especially Star Wars Galaxies. And so now he's religiously following Stars Reach.
Yeah, and you know what? The cool thing about Raph is, like, you made me think of him earlier when you were kind of talking about like the vice president knew your name and everything. And like, we'll have these big stand-up meetings, and like I said, I don't know like all the technical things, and so like a lot of those like conversations are kind of over my head. It's more of like getting the work done is like a big thing of mine, and like hearing news and like staying up to date. But like, you know, like someone that's brand new in the company will say something, and I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, that doesn't even like make sense to add to the game. And all of a sudden Raph will like stop the meeting and be like, wait, did you mean it like this? And he's like, this, we could work with this. And you're like, whoa, like, I didn't think that idea stood a chance. But like, he takes all the ideas like very seriously, from, you know, the top of the like execs to like the newest person in the company. And, you know, and I see him in those discussions too, like comment sections, and like whether it's Discord or like Reddit or something, where like, it might be a simple question, but he'll end up writing like 3 or 4 paragraphs. And I'm like, you know, this guy is so down to earth. So
he is. Excuse me. And that's what I like about Raph, is how down to earth he has, and how he has respect for everyone. And I think that respect of, let me hear this person out and not judge them right away, is because that's how he was judged for the entertainer in Star Wars Galaxies. People started mocking and laughing at him in a way about, oh, the entertainer's never gonna work. That's a bad idea. And he went and did it anyways and proved them wrong. I'm built the same way. Because of my disability, I was always told, you're not smart enough. You can't do that. For someone like Raph and me, it's oh, really? Let me show you otherwise. You just made sure that I get this done. I've always had, even before I knew Raph, I'm talking early 90s, I had that push and that drive because I had to push to get my own education. The school system didn't want me to have an education. They didn't think I was smart enough to have an education, even though I'd proven time and time again. So I think it's that dedication and that drive to push on and show people that they're being narrow-minded and not looking at everything that sort of pushes that kind of mentality. And
Totally.
there's times when I expected pushback, like when I was in game design school, and it was the first course of our bachelor's degree for game design and digital entertainment. Instructor did a smart move and said, okay, we're going to run this as you pitching a project. There's two things that I need to see. I need to see that it's going to be challenging, but possible for you to do. And you need to have a good plan of how to pull this off. You show me those two things, I will greenlight your project and work on it the next 2 years. And so I walked up to this, the whiteboard, and I wrote up this whole entire plan and drew schematics and stuff like that about a turn-based first-person shooter. And he looks at me and he goes, no one has ever been able to make a good turn-based first-person shooter. Either the first-person shooter part of it sucks, or the turn-based part of it sucks, or somewhere in the middle, the two just don't mesh well together. It is almost nearly impossible to do this. I think it can be possible. I've just never seen someone do it. I'm giving you the green light because of the challenge, because even if you fail, you will learn things. So go for it. I got lucky enough that the other option he gave is that if someone comes up with an idea you like that's better than what you have, you can opt to join their team and you will still get a good grade because you're still working your game development skills. The one and only programmer in our group of like 20 people chose my game. And so as he goes, I had an idea, I canceled it, I'm going with Controlled Chaos's game. You hear the whole entire crowd go, oh man, because they knew they had to learn how to program, because they knew the very, very basics. And I got the programmer that knows physics, aced his physics final, only missed one question. So I got a really good programmer.
Yeah.
And we built out the prototype, so it just had your cubes and your spheres and stuff like that, not textured, and cylinders and things like that. And handed him the instructor the controls. And this is the pass-fail moment. Do we move on with the project, or do we drop it and come up with another idea quickly? And he plays around with it for like 5 minutes, drops the controller and goes, that's it, continue on with this. You've already, in the prototype phase, solved that mix between first-person shooter and turn-based strategy. This feels good. I don't notice it. The blur is so nice in there. I felt so impressed, and I worked really hard on that. So getting that kind of praise when you get it felt sort of uncomfortable. I'm pretty sure Raph feels the same way, especially like you and anyone else when you get that praise for doing a good job. It's nice hearing from someone else in the gaming industry that's holding a different position. Like I said early, being in HR in the games industry is way rougher. I mean, I'm pretty sure you share stories with other HR colleagues of like the horror stories or the war stories of what you went through and stuff like that, and the gasps and shocks from them of like, no, you're joking, right? You're having to go, nope, this is real. Do you do that? And if so, how often do you do it? And how often do you hear gasps of shock from your colleagues?
Well, I will say, like, especially at like bigger companies and stuff, the like stories, like there's never the same day. Even here, there's
Mm.
never the same day with human resources. But like one of my always like favorite ones, and like it's happened at almost every large company I've worked at, is so and so doesn't want to sit by so and so during lunch, and now there's like, you know, some kind of spat between these two people. It's like two little kids.
Yeah, I was just
And
thinking the same thing.
now I somehow have to like interview both of them, interview all the witnesses of who saw who, sit by who, and and so like those like little kid stories like happen a lot. But yeah, like when we're sharing stories, there are like some where they're like, wait, that didn't really happen. Like you're exaggerating some of that, right? And you're like, if anything, I'm toning it down.
Yeah.
Like, it was worse. Like I've seen like police come in and have to take people out, and like, or like I like one real quiet guy. This was several companies ago. One quiet guy that like we needed to terminate because they had used all their PTO days, had too many points with attendance and everything. And I thought it was going to be an easy termination. I had a witness in there with me, and yeah, we had to call the police to get him to leave. Like he was like up on top of a desk yelling at everyone, So I've had my fair share of some drama in the workplace.
I've seen that, especially in the games industry. We were working on a top secret project, a very, very important project, and we were a bit behind schedule. We brought in more testers from the lower tier 1, and one of them is a huge fan of the franchise. So they're all sort of geeking out as they're testing, and we're putting up because, we've already been there for almost a year now. So our geekiness had sort of on it had waned down. We're now like really, really tired of it. In fact, we're tired of playing that franchise. I didn't touch that franchise of games, that genre of games for 5 years after testing that game. I was so burnt out. But anyways, they geeked out, and at this company, we had signed a non-disclosure agreement. And that non-disclosure agreement, it states that if you're caught taking pictures, they have the right to grab that phone, flash that phone, and kick you off the premise, and you are immediately fired. Well, they had taken a picture of the game, and they were getting ready to post it on Facebook. Huge no.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And they get caught. Their phone immediately gets confiscated. Security immediately deletes and flashes their phone because, well, it's in the contract. They're allowed to do that, which, you signed the contract. You read it. You agreed to that. They're screaming the whole entire time, that's not fair. You don't have the right to do that. And that's where they bring out the contract, show her, things like that. And she's like, well, then I'll just go for the company that I originally worked for, which is the company that made this franchise. And that's when the GM broke her heart and said, honey, no, we've already talked to them. You're blacklisted there. You're never, ever getting a job there because you can't be trusted.
Yeah.
And they threw a fit, and security actually had to drag her out. She literally lost it because she lost her dream job that moment. But it was her own fault. It was her own actions that caused it because her love of the game took over so much. And then she also had this bit of ego that drove her to, I need to share this to impress people online that I'm actually doing this thing. I mean, I've been fans of franchises I've worked on. And yes, I've geeked out on many of them, including the one I was working on, because I'm a fan of the developers, not just the franchise. And yes, I did geek out in front of the producer. Just a little bit, but it was there for 5 seconds and then gone. And the rest of the time, it was a very great working relationship. I even got to prove them wrong and make them change their mind, which, as you mentioned, Raph does that. You see that happening all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
How hard is it as you being in HR? Do you have people pushing on you to get to for you to change your mind on your decisions?
Um, well, and you know what? Like one thing that I've always found, like in every company that I've worked at,
Mhm.
is like employee relations is like, probably the very top of importance there in human
Mhm.
resources. And so, and like one of my first HR jobs was the HR director that I reported to had a saying that was always fair, firm, consistent. And like that should always be human resources. And so, like, by making connections with employees, understanding what they do, and like having conversations with them, where it might just be saying good morning and everything, and like, hey, how's your day going? And, allowing them to get to know human resources and know that, hey, going to human resources isn't always a punishment. You can go there with questions. You can go there with like, hey, I think this person deserves like a raise or something because they're doing this. So human resources can be a good thing. And by having those type of relationships with employees, I found that even when I have to have tough conversations, usually they're like, at least I'm talking to Justin. Like I know Justin did the best he could for us
Mhm.
because he's always been honest with us. He's always been transparent with us. So being able to like establish that at the beginning is really big, because I am fighting always for the employees. And I've had those conversations where the person does not want to be fired and they want to change your mind and they're like, hey, this and this and this. And that's why it's always important too to have paperwork to back up any type
Mhm.
of like major decision you're going to make. And if that's with a termination, you can go ahead and show them, yeah, I understand you feel that way, but this is the reality of the situation. Or we had to do like massive layoffs at that foundry that I worked at, and I had to announce those and have those type of conversations.
Mhm.
And that was a situation where I could point out this is why we're having these layoffs. Such and such happened. It's not just a decision by the president where he's like, oh, this needs to happen and like things will flow better. There's reasons behind it, like this
Mhm.
contract was lost and this happened. So it's always important to have those facts and be able to back up whatever you're going to say.
Mhm.
So like a lot of times employees will get the impression, and I used to, like when I worked as an attorney and I never had worked in human resources, I had the same impression of HR, where if they're going to have a meeting, they're kind of shooting off the cuff here and like see how it goes. But like people in HR really do like study up before having any type of big meeting. So like there's a lot of work that goes into those meetings, but if you do that, those meetings are going to go a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're personable to the employees. I always had good relationships with HR when they knew my name. They knew who I was. HR who had to look up my name to know who I was made me feel like a cog in the wheel.
Mhm.
And, I'm very uncomfortable. But I want to let's switch gears here and let's talk
Yep.
more about Stars Reach.
Awesome.
And I want to know, working for Playable Worlds, at any time when you're actually working, do you get a chance to sit down and play Stars Reach? And if
Yeah,
so,
and
how
so
often?
and so even though I work in the admin and I'm not programming anything and not working in art or anything like that, they still will have like, especially when they're going to lock down a build, they'll
Hmm.
have like several play tests that week, and they want everybody to jump in because they want, and it's mandatory, that you actually get into the playtest, the internal playtest, because they want as many people as they can, just so they can experience like what is it going to be like when we have this as an external build.
Hmm.
So we get to like I think this week. we had 3 playtests before it was ready to get locked down, and we were going to have another one this afternoon, but because the build, you know, finally got to where it needed to be,
Yeah.
we were good with canceling the playtest today. But you know, it probably 2 or 3 times, and probably for like an hour during those playtests in the afternoon.
Oh, great. So like every other week, you get several days where you get an hour in the afternoons or whatever to just sit and play the game. And so have you ever actually written up a bug yourself and submitted it to them to get fixed?
Okay. So not technically, but like what we do is in Slack, we'll have we have the internal playtest channel.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when something like the other day, like my tools or no, my missions weren't showing up. And so
Mm.
immediately like I went in there and like took a pitch snippet
Yeah.
of my tools being or my missions being empty, and I posted it in there, and they like replied right away, and they're like, "Oh, bugs already been submitted for this issue." But like if I do find something, they'll write in the bug. So like there's employees that go back through that after the playtest, and whatever's not already a bug, they'll put it into Jira as a bug.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, you probably used to hearing this comment more than us players are of Dave or Raph of going, that's happening? Really? I want to see. Show me. Their excitement is amazing. And some people think that that's just for show of public facing. I'm trying to tell people, no, these people are passionate. You know, Dave and Raph could probably retire by now and be comfortable. But they're still out there both working hard on games that they see would be fun, but also want our input to be fun. So knowing that they're as passionate outside internally as they are out externally is very important.
Totally. And I mean, it gets all of us excited too, because like when they say, "Oh, Justin, can you show me how can we recreate that?" I'll be like, "I'm a developer. I'm helping." You know. So
your little kid is just like, best dream in the world.
Totally.
Especially with it being Raph Cosner, it's probably your teenagers just like sitting there drooling, spasming, believing this can't be real.
No, totally.
So with that, when you normally get into play, what is your normal play style? Do you like doing the combat? Do you like doing the building? Do you like doing the planting, the harvesting? What?
And you know what? I like doing it all. Well, I would say like combat is definitely my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just because it's easier. Like I can build, but like it takes me a lot longer than it takes all of you. Like, and sometimes my house is kind of sitting up in the air and it's not like down on the ground totally. So I like the combat, and I like doing those missions where, hey, go kill a dangerous, ball hog on this planet. So I get pretty excited about those.
Okay, and then you see Dave's builds, and then you go cry in the corner because you can't go, you bastard! I mean,
no, and what some people do during those external play tests, like the hotel Akalala, like I was like, okay, that's never happening for me. Like, there's a picture of Charlie the otter. I'm like, this is amazing,
Yeah, that portrait of Charlie the otter is amazing. I saw that, and I'm just like, oh my god, the artistic skill, pixel art skill, and they did it so big, it barely looks pixel art. It's insane.
That I was not part of that, in case you were wondering.
You're just the person going, oh.
Yeah, I'm the one taking pictures of it to save for myself,
Exactly. So I agree with you on that in these builds. Like the first time they put homesteading in and we built Beanstalk City. And the story that's famous to this day of Raph accidentally flooding it and then us having to muck it out. Were you working at Playable Worlds when that happened?
I was. I've actually been here since mid 2023.
Okay.
But I was here when that happened, and I was like, this world is actually becoming a real world.
Yeah.
And like kind of inventing the steam engine and stuff. And like I remember when that happened, Raph like put it in one of the internal channels, and he's like, this is something that we completely never expected was going to happen. Like, even though he has huge ideas, even he didn't expect that to happen like as quick as it did, you know?
Well, and it's one of those things, you know, you being in HR, you know, you sort of have to control the people, you know, you don't want them spending the whole entire time sort of goofing around. I'm pretty sure there were some internal jokes going on about him flooding the city and stuff like that. Just like the short that I did of me burying Dave Jordanson and him doing that, oh no, a little bit. I heard that there was some joking around going on about that. Did it, when that hit your desk, was it more of a, oh, people are doing, you know, making fun of this too much, I need to control this? Or was it so lighthearted that it was like, okay, I can just laugh at this?
No, and that, like, once again, our employees are like really mature on everything. And so like when those jokes do come, it's lighthearted that you can really like laugh at it and enjoy it. I've never come across a thing where like people are just like continuing something all day where like they aren't getting any work done. Like they're so into their work that, you know, they realize what's funny, and like they definitely bring it up at opportune moments, and then, you know, it's no big deal.
Well, I mean, it's always fun to watch your boss's face go blush red of embarrassment. Yeah. You know, it puts a smile on your face. It shows that they're human beings. And it also shows that they're a good boss if they can laugh at their own mistakes, which Raph and Dave do all the time. It's just like, I know when Dave's had his hands heavily in the mechanics of the game, excuse me, he'll show up in voice chat of the first test. And we'll know when we've touched on something he's had his hands on, because we'll interact with it, we'll make a comment on it, and then Dave will have this methodical laugh that is just hilarious. It's sort of like the Dave's normal laugh with a slight twist on it of evil genius type feel to it, and it's always great. So I see him in there, I know, okay, I need to pay attention to what I'm doing and what I'm touching, because I know at some point in time I'm gonna hear that laugh, and I want to get a sound clip of that laugh. It's so good.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I think it was yesterday when we did a play test. Raph like got into like, I don't know if it was like Sky Sharks or what it was, but all of a sudden Raph's just like, oh, the Sky Sharks. And Dave just started cracking up, and like he had just been through it himself or something. Like he knew exactly where Raph was, and that he was in some major trouble.
It's great that he does that internally too, because then that makes us players feel like we're actually part of the team. And that's one thing Raph and Dave are naturally good at. Is the players we feel like we're part of the team with the way they talk to us. They don't talk down to us. They don't talk to us like we're their customers. They talk to us like we're friends, we're colleagues. They let us know we're just as important. Like, for instance, my friend Dredd. She's new to gaming. She's only been gaming the last 8 to 5 years. And she got into the playtest, and she's constantly apologizing of being a newbie because this is her first true MMO. She's never really played an MMO before this. So she's sort of like,
that's cool,
learning things, and she's never done a test before. So, you know, I've been sort of behind the scenes trying to guide her, but she keeps on saying, I'm sorry, I'm so green. And Raph just Shallant goes, no, it's great you're green. We want more people who've never experienced a game like this so we know how to write the tutorials and the guides to get you playing the game and having fun without the frustration. And even behind the scenes, I'm having to say, no, he's right. He's being honest there. Working in the games industry, we cherish that kind of thing.
Yeah. And like, it's funny because now that I'm thinking about it, and like, you'll notice I never used the word earlier either, like that word customers, because like, even like during all of our like internal meetings and everything, it's always like, how is the community going to react to this? Like how communities used all the time. And so like, it is really thought of as we're all in this together.
Exactly. And it's, if the game can financially survive long enough past launch, I think it will survive a long time. Because what I notice in the MMO industry, and you being a gamer, you've probably seen this, is if it lasts under a year and shuts down, that's it. It's over. If it lasts beyond its first year, it's going to last several years.
And that's what, like, Raph's ideas are so big and so like intricate. Like this new update, the university one.
I'm loving it.
With like bigger trees, skill trees and everything. And like, it's just like the tip of the iceberg. Like, I've heard him talk even way more. And like, I'm like, man, it really is its own universe. And like, the possibilities are endless of continuing to improve and continuing to like expand those skill trees. So
now, the question I have dealing with those skill trees, Dave has came out and said that he's doing a lot of the data entry for those skill trees. So I'm pretty sure what all the community wants to know is how fragile and like roughly bearded does he look in those stand-up meetings, getting the very little sleep he's getting and crunching all those numbers. Does he have an eye twitching and the head bobbing a little bit look, or...
No, like for some reason, he's always freshly shaved, always looking like top of his game. And the craziest part is that, like, probably a lot of people don't know about Dave, is I'll like get on pretty early, and like I'm on Pacific Coast time right now.
Yeah.
And I get on pretty early in the morning at like 6 just to check like Slack messages and stuff. And he'll already have a bunch of messages like in a bunch of different channels starting at like 3 o'clock, and he's on Pacific time too.
Yeah.
And so he's been up since 3, and like for our 10 o'clock stand-up meeting, he looks like he just woke up, like he's fresh. I'm like, I don't know how many hours this guy puts in, but I don't know how he's doing it.
I think I know how he's doing it. He just has that natural positive energy. He looks at the world in a positive way, non-negative way. And I'm the same way. So is my dad. And when you're positive, you always have a lot of injury or a lot of energy, even when you're injured. Because my dad would injure himself and go, oh, no, I'm fine. It's not until he sits down and rests, he realizes how badly he's injured. And I'm the same way. I have a lot of positive energy. Once I've actually woken up, like, you've seen, I was late to this interview. I apologize for that again, but did I sound tired and drowsy and stuff like that? I sounded awake because I have that positive energy. If people are sort of like in the middle of the road or negative energy, they always sound more downbeat and not so, energized. And I think that's the difference. And Raph, Dave, and several people that work there that I've spoken to all have that upbeat energy, which, in my opinion, is very infectious and amazing to do in the company. Whereas if you get a bunch of negative people in the company, it feels more like, oh my God, do I really need to go in here today? And for an HR person, for you, I'm pretty sure you love working at a place with a bunch of positive people, and you dread and know that you're going to have a rough time working and having to handle a bunch of negative people. Is that true, or is that just all in my head?
No, that's totally true. And first off, I thought when you were going to say, I think I know how Dave Georgeson does it, I thought you were going to say he drinks a lot of Jolt. But
yeah. Okay, that's number two. I'm pretty sure he has a mini fridge under his desk full of a bunch of Jolt. But my worry is with his natural energy, and he's always had that energy. If you were to take Jolt, he'd be like a pinball bouncing around everywhere, or a Super Bowl just bouncing all over the room. That's what I picture.
Yeah, he definitely would be. But yeah, like with human resources, another thing that I heard early on, even like in my legal career, was like perception is reality. And so like, especially in human resources, just because you hear like bad news doesn't mean you walk around with like a frown on your face. And like, as long as you're smiling and the employees see that, like it is infectious. And they're like, hey, I'm in a good mood too. Like, look how happy this person is.
Yeah.
You know, and like, that's like 99% of the battle right there,
you
know?
Definitely. I agree with you. And that's sort of part of the reason why I like doing these videos is to make people feel better, to answer people's questions, and why I throw in some humor every so often, some voices, is to make people laugh, because my favorite thing to do is to make people feel better. Just awesome. Emotionally feel better. It's just fun. Now, I want to switch back to talking about Stars Reach, because we got a little bit off track.
Yep.
Are there any thing coming in the future for Stars Reach that interests you the most in the game? And if so, are you able to talk about what it is?
You know, like sometimes I don't really know a ton about what's coming in the future and everything. I was really excited about this university update. And like and how I mentioned combat before, and like so it's not, this isn't anything that I know like that no one else knows, but I'm really excited for combat to continue to develop, for the guns to get more intricate, for you know like drones and like all of that stuff to like, you know what I mean, and like I think it's going to get really cool. I'm really excited for it eventually to continue to expand where there's like actual spaceships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if that's, you know, in a year or what, it might be next week, but like, I don't have any inside information, but those are like some of the cool things that like I've heard talked about. And I think those will be really cool in the future.
Well, in a way, you do have inside information, because you can reach out to Dave and go, so how far along are you putting in those data for that and stuff like that? And something I'm wanting to know, I don't know, you'll probably not be able to answer this, but you are inside the company. How is it planned for the release of these skills? Because we have all that work in progress that's up there, and there's a lot up there. And like I said, Dave's just got to be going mad lightning speed. I'm pretty sure he's replacing a keyboard every day, having to use a fire extinguisher on it and stuff like that. But the question is his plan to do all of the data work and release it all once, or is it to do, okay, let me finish up the data input for this tree, release that tree, and work that direction?
And you know what? I'm not completely positive on like how he's going to do it, because it's been discussed like both ways. So I'm not sure like what the final decision is going to be. But like my assumption, and this is me guessing, but like my assumption would be like they really want to get things out. And so I'm thinking they're going to try to piecemeal it, you know?
Yeah. Just, you know, okay, we got drones done for drone combat. Let's put that in. We got the xenobiology tree done. Let's put that in. I see that as possible doing. I don't see it going, okay, we got the first xenobiology, skill done. Let's put that one in. I think it's going to be the whole entire line for one thing and stuff like that. And that would be nice because then they can take their time with testing and they're not having to get a bunch of bugs on a bunch of different skills all at once. They're getting them.
I think that's
a
big part of it. Yeah.
So, and that would be the smart move. So I say that as a smart move, is crossing my fingers that the developers are watching this and going, he's right. We need to do it that direction. I'm sort of influencing things from the outside.
Well, I do know when they're making those big decisions like that, it's not even just like one meeting or two meetings. Like they do have a bunch of meetings about it. So like there's a lot of like input that goes into it and a lot of thought. And so like, I'm very confident in like them making the right decisions on how to release things or like what to work on next too.
Okay. Now, with that being said, and us having these longer test cycles of 71 to 118 hour test time. So we get like 3 to 4 days test time. Do you ever find yourself jumping into the game outside of work?
Yeah. And I like, sometimes it's just like, I want to get in there and I also want to get into Discord. Like maybe I don't know the technical things, but maybe I can answer some things that like someone has a quick question on. I don't do it as much as I would like to, but like, it'll be like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there type of deal.
Yeah. And that's understandable. You got work. It's the whole entire work-life balance type thing.
Yeah. And like with us having some of like the contractors in other countries, like Thomas in completely different time zone and everything, like a lot of my hours like really vary, where I'm like still trying to catch him but like I'm also not even off work until like 6 o'clock Pacific time. And so.
Okay. Now, when we were talking earlier about how they have those mandatory internal tests, do they ever do mandatory test time to actually be playing with the other players when the servers are public and live?
And so, not for like the whole company.
Okay.
No. Not yet, but like.
I like how you put not yet. I noticed your hands were out of the screen there and you probably had your fingers crossed, hoping, please make that happen. Please make that happen.
Well, no, and like everything changes to like at a minute's notice, after a big decision's been made and stuff. And so like it could be like something where, hey, let's jump in. And like it wasn't mandatory, but it was what was it? It was like yesterday at 2 o'clock that we kind of did an external test for an hour just to see how it went.
Yeah.
So like it was encouraged.
And that's a good thing. Did you actually jump in with the rest of us for that 1 hour, or you were too busy?
I did not yesterday. No, I had 2 different meetings, so I wasn't able to.
Oh, that's about you. You were probably darn it.
No, I was bummed because like those are the funnest times when everyone's in there.
Yeah, when you get to see the world populated in the game, and it's great to see that even someone who's not on the development side of it, eager to see what the players are doing and how the players are interacting with the game, because then that shows that you are not just an HR person, you're a gamer. And that's why I was asking all those questions, is I want to show people that you're gaming and you have a long history of gaming like me, going back to the 90s, maybe even the 80s. Because, I've said many times, my first console was an Atari 2600. My first computer was a Commodore 64.
Oh, wow.
That's how far back my gaming history goes.
Yeah. You were there at the beginning.
Near the beginning. I wasn't there when they had the first Pong machine in the bar. And even if I was born at that time, I was way too young to be in that bar. So, But but I mean, even the newer gamers coming in and seeing what Raph is doing with this game, and the fact that getting them to go back and check out Ultima Online, Star Wars Galaxies, and I've heard people going, "Oh, I never heard of Star Wars Galaxies. I saw it because of Stars Reach or whatever," and then I started playing it, and then they get hooked on Stars Reach or Star Wars Galaxies. I know once Stars Reach launches, they're going to get hooked on that, because it's like Stars Reach is Star Wars Galaxies on, I know you're an HR person, but I'm going to say it anyways, steroids.
No, it is. It's like and it was all the ideas that Raph had at that time that he really, really wanted to put into action. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, the great thing is with the way he's doing of being able to bring up worlds, shut down worlds, bring up solar systems, shut down solar systems, really solve some of the problems that he had back in the UO days, when you were able to, in the beta version of it, take out an entire species of flora and fauna. Well, now he has a way of bringing them back by bringing up new worlds. And totally. the other thing is, because of the genetic sequencing and stuff like that, people like Gunk can go, "Oh, okay, that species has been taken out. Let's genetically remake it and put back into the world."
It's so crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't think a game would be able to do all these things, and like, it's so cool that those are possibilities.
Yeah, it is. Now, here's some questions I have for you. What's something that you've seen happen in the game that blew your mind, that you never thought you'd see in your lifetime happen in a video game?
I mean, for sure, it's the terrain continue to evolve, and like the temperatures, it knows different temperatures, like at different peaks and valleys, and like the world just being like a real world, and like the game just knows it. It's always been, hey, if you go this high, you're getting into ice or something like that, but like this, it can like change temperatures depending on how the land's like sculpted and everything.
Yeah, the physics in this are so interesting, because it's like, I'll be running around, minding my own business, I'll get into a bit of combat, and I'll be sort of like in a hilly area. And at the end of the combat, one of those speed bumps will drop. And I'll hit one of those speed bumps, and I'll accidentally run over a hill and forgot that I hit that speed bump. Next thing I know, I'm soaring like Evel Knievel and flying through the air going, "Oh God, please don't hit that ground too hard. Please don't hit the ground too hard." And there have been times where I've literally, okay, I've gone over the hill, I'm fine, cliff, oh crap, and then splat. And I'm just laughing at myself from the hysterics of the physics. And it's even worse when it's like, okay, I've gone over the hill, I hit the ground, but it's ice because the seasons just changed. You slide and fly off the cliff. I feel I get that sense of Wile E. Coyote holding up the sign going, "Help!"
Uh-oh. Yeah. Uh-oh.
and part of me wants to talk to the developers and say, okay, I want you to put code in there where the character just sort of hangs there for a second of two, and then you get the drop along with those wind lines, and then the option for the player to hold up a sign that says "help" or something like that would be hilarious.
The shape of the player as a hole in the ground.
Yeah, exactly. If the physics are true, then it should do that, right?
Yeah, I've done the same thing that you just talked about so many times, and like while I'm falling, I'm like hitting R to try to shoot my grapple out, and like grab anything. I'm like, oh no!
Or before you have the grab mesh, you're constantly hitting the spacebar and holding it down, going work, and because they took out the grab mesh for everyone to have, you're realizing you're screwed, and the developer, probably Rodney, who's yanked it out, is mischievously laughing in the background. That's the fun of the game. And I'm doing things in this game that I normally hate in every other MMO, in every other video game. I'm doing and playing parts of the game that I just normally don't enjoy. Have you found yourself doing that with this game? And if so, what areas is that?
No, definitely. And like some of it will be when there's like a play test that comes out, like they'll write up, hey, can you make sure you test these like 6 things?
Mm,
And so like definitely like working with working with any kind of like the biology tree or
mm,
like working with like plant growth or anything like that. It's always been like in other games where I've just like, I don't have time for that. Like I need to get to like the end of the game. Like I
mm.
need to like conquer this or get the most coins on this. But like on this, like by doing that, it's enabled us to like experience all those parts of the games. And I'm like, whoa, like this is actually pretty cool if I have like a homestead here and now like I'm planting trees around it. This is actually looking really neat, you know? So those are parts I would have never paid attention to in other games.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like I've said many times, I don't like mining. I hate mining in all other games because it's, oh, walk up to the ore, hit or ore node, hit with a pickaxe, get the ore, done. In
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
you're actually having to dig and worry about so many different things than just, oh, I get to sit there. It's a more proactive game, and you have to think about where you're going, what you're digging through, what could be ahead. And if things start, like if you're digging and you're in rock and all of a sudden you hit P, and now I have to pull out my chrono phaser and change that to something more solid so it doesn't bury me alive as I'm trying to create this tunnel to get to the resource I want to get to. It's not your normal click, It's a very, very fun, interactive mini game that's just at start, because I've heard them talk about things like, oh, we want to have little small hidden internal caves that will have creatures that will be aggressive, that will come attack you when you break into them. We want to have these underground laboratories that the servitors have hidden technology in. If you disturb them, they come after you and stuff like that. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh my God, that's so fun. And now with this new skill tree, I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, I know how I'm going to build controlled chaos. I have him built up for doing all my videos, but then I also like to make another character that's for my off time, my fun time that no one knows about. And I've had him figured out, but with the new skill trees, he's now morphed and changed. Because I like having pets. I like having turrets and things like that. And when I play City Heroes, I have this character called Drone Rigger, where he controls a bunch of drones and turrets and stuff like that. As soon as turrets were announced, I was like, okay, well, there's a change there. I gotta get turrets. And then seeing this skill tree, I'm seeing drones. I'm like, okay, well, now I definitely gotta get drones. Okay, I'm no longer this character. I'm morphing him into this character instead. When they release new information to you about where the direction of the game is going, does that change your mind on what your character for live looks like, and how often is it changing?
It definitely changes it because like to begin with, well, like even talking about those tunnels and stuff, like I love digging like tunnels at the very beginning when I first started playing it. I was like, oh, if worst comes to worst, an enemy comes, I can run through this tunnel and get over to like where this homestead is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool. But like I went from choosing like explorer like
Mm-hmm.
every time to like choosing warrior, and now I'm starting to choose some of the other ones where like I was positive I was going to just do explorer every
Uh-huh.
time because I really liked like just going through and experiencing the world and finding all those points and everything. And then like I'm like, oh wait, now these missions are here. Now I really do need like some weapons so I can finish these combat missions. But they also have like, hey, go and find this. See, you know, so it's changed. Like it changes probably pretty often, like every other week, like I'm doing something different.
Yeah. So, of the features that we know that are to come out, such as the spaceships, the player controlled mission boards, the political system, stuff like that, what of those that we know that's coming out in the future for the game interests you the most right now, gets you the most excited to be able to play around with?
I mean, I think it probably will be like something to do with like politics and stuff, where like it's even more complicated than something I would have ever imagined being in games, you know? So
Mm,
I think I, if you would have asked me a year ago what I'm most excited about, I would have been like, oh, starships like shooting lasers at each other and
mm.
stuff. And now I'm like really into like the characters like really growing with like professions and stuff. So I think it'll be something where, hey, this person just got elected leader of this planet, you know, and you have to go see them about cutting down resources.
Mm.
So I
Yeah,
think that'll be really, really cool.
well, it fits with you doing human resources and interacting with people and seeing how they interact and sort of managing that. You going into the political sort of theme of that sort of fits with that, and you using your skills there. So, do you plan to govern any planets? And if so, how many planets do you want to try to govern?
I I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I would love to be able to do that. But it would just like I feel like this game's just going to keep getting more and more, and there's going to be so much growth that like governing one planet's going to be not easy, you know.
Yeah.
So, so I don't have any plans of like having a you know a bunch of planets that under my guidance, you know.
So no chance of us calling you Emperor Justin then,
No,
right?
no, but you know what would be cool is like, and see, these are the things I'm getting excited about. Is if someone does get a couple planets, and all of a sudden that this like benevolent emperor like is turning bad, and it's like now I'm cutting down our resources, and people are like panicked, you know.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, when I saw the direction things were going with vehicles, with having ground vehicles, air vehicles, and spaceships,
mm,
I'm pretty sure water vehicles will probably get added into that at some point in time. And if not, Dave or Raph are sitting there frantically writing down water vehicles.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
just the way they work. Um, with Dave being on the team and the talks of there being opt-in PvP, I see combined arms combat.
yeah. I would say that, and I think it's going to get to a point where like it's fun just watching the game, you know.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know you mentioned you played Ultima Online. Did you play Star Wars Galaxies?
And so like I played it, but I definitely like didn't play it for an extended period of time.
Okay, but you dabbled your foot in it, and at that time and age, you were just sort of like, not really my thing. Have you ever looked back at that and gone, I wish I would have dived deeper into that?
No, and that played the biggest role in it. Is like I was never really a big Star Wars fan, like growing up
Mm,
or anything, and like I was more into like superheroes and stuff like that.
mm,
But like now I'm like, man, like I really wish I would have gotten involved into that because that was like one of the cooler, intricate games during that time period, you know? So yeah, I definitely wish I would have gotten more involved in it.
so the game mechanics of Star Wars Galaxy is what interests you, not the actual franchise of Star Wars.
Yeah. And so like I've gotten more into Star Wars as I've gotten a little bit older
Mm.
and like respected a lot whole lot more, you know, but it's just never been like really my thing.
That's great because I actually I'm a decent Star Wars fan. I grew up with it just like you did. I wasn't a diehard fan, but a little bit more of a fan than you were. But it was the gameplay mechanics that hooked me also in Star Wars Galaxies.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when Star Wars Galaxies got shut down, I was just like, oh, I hope Raph comes up with something. And then hearing Raph talk about how someday in the future I want to do this and stuff like that. And then I completely lost it when he announced Stars Reach. I swear I screamed like a little schoolgirl and did a little dance in my chair and spun around, got really, really geeky, and then did the same thing when I got into the test. I think the final one was when I had messaged Carneros and said that, hey, I'd like to do some of these interviews, and I'm going to be doing videos on Stars Reach. And he goes, oh yeah, let's set up some interviews. On top of that, we're starting the creators branch of things, and we want to invite a bunch of creators to come in. Should I send you an email to invite you into this? I said, yes, please. And got into that. And it's like, that's the other thing I noticed that David and Raph do, and everyone on the team does, is they don't look at, oh, they're a content creator. Do they have hundreds and thousands of subscribers? Is every video getting thousands and thousands of views? They don't look at that. They look at, okay, are they a content creator? Do they make good content? If so, let's invite them in.
Oh, and are they knowledgeable about like games? Yeah. And and I mean, that was one thing like I have heard discussed with you, was just like your knowledge of games and like your ability to like have interviews and have them like flow easily. Yeah. And so, like that was perfect.
And that's something I take pride in, because I've watched so many interviews where they're just sort of like question, and it's always the interviewer asking a question, not making it and turning it into a conversation. And that's just sort of like boring to me, because then you just know, okay, it's this, and there's some people that do like that, and that's fine that you like that, but you want to make sure that the person you're talking to feels comfortable, feels relaxed. It's like those, when you see a news correspondent interviewing someone, they're always up, straight, rigid, boom, 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 boom. But then when you watch like a late night talk show host interview someone, they're leaned back, both people are relaxed, they're asking a question, they're joking around, they're interacting with one another. It's more of a conversational piece. I really love this. And the number one person that did it so well, Johnny Carson.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, just so relaxing. And every other late night show host, guarantee, literally mimics him as best as they can, because he did it the best. Just like a lot of people try to mimic what Raph does. They learn from Raph does, what Dave does, because both of those developers are developers that they don't like to just do the rinse and repeat, let's do the same things. They want to push the boundaries as far as they possibly can to that breaking point, and when they break it, that's when they back off a bit. And do they leave it alone? No, because with Ultima Online, they pushed the whole entire thing of creatures going extinct to that breaking point, and players did break it, and they had no way to solve it. Did that mean Raph never came back to the idea again? No, he came back to it with Stars Reach. And that's why I really like and impresses me most with Raph. Just like you taking this opportunity and going out of your boundaries and working at a game development studio in HR. I mean, that had to have given you also some pauses in your thoughts of what kind of headaches, what kind of unknowns am I going to walk into besides your gamer side geeking out?
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, because even with me, it's always like going into a whole different field is going to be learning stuff all over again. Like I know what the forklift driver does. I don't know what the senior engineer does at a game studio, you know? So,
well, and that's the thing that you hear a lot of people say is, you know, most people think a game developer comes up with an idea, hits a button, and it's done. And that's not the way it works. There's so much hard work we're putting into there. It's insane. I mean, even as
you know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just, like you were saying, I was so naive with video games before. I was like, I don't know why this would take like a few months until it's released. Like, just make it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I didn't understand how much work really goes into it.
Exactly. And that's the thing, you know, people think, oh, video editing is just easy. You cut out the blank parts you don't want. Well, yeah, there's that. But then there's the audio editing in case, you know, someone's voice volume is too high compared to someone else. You got to edit those out. If you got any background noises that don't sound right or any crackling on the mic, you got to clear that up. And then on top of that, if you want to add any special effects for a funny moment that happened, that, you know, maybe you want to slide in another clip from a movie or something that references to that to just make that joke punch in that much more and stuff like that. I got a video that I'm working on right now that I'm doing for a client where they're playing a pen and paper Vampire the Masquerade game. And it's a 4-hour long stream that I'm editing. And basically my job is just to cut out those dead spaces of more than 5 seconds. Well, my roommate is now part of the group playing in that. And I've chosen of my own free will of no extra cost to them. I'm going to edit that one and pick on my roommate with little graphical aids of like dunce caps and stuff like that. And I got the okay from the actual person who runs the stream and stuff like that I can do this.
That's
what
awesome.
Normally takes me 15 minutes to half an hour to edit. I've done that and put up that version, but now I have a second version that I'm doing where I'm only half an hour in of that 4-hour video, but it's taking me 10 hours to do that half an hour of work.
Man, such a difference, right?
It's a huge difference. And that's where gaming is more along the line, making a game is more along the lines of that ladder form, especially the more complex you get. If you want to do something like Pong, you can get done in that hour or two time. Because nowadays it's simple, it's easy. But you want to do something like Stars Reach? Remember, they spent 5 years just working on the technology for the terrain that we have now and the world simulation. I mean, for you, Justin, that has to impress you.
I don't know how first off, that really impresses me. But I also don't know how they handle like the frustration with like, hey, let's put in this code so the character can do this. And now all of a sudden we have a problem with something that's older. And you're like, well, wait, what code that we put in is not interacting with this other code? I'd be like losing my mind that I have to go back through this again and like now figure out which one doesn't want to interact with this. I don't know. I don't have the patience. It really impresses me how all of you can like handle those type of things.
That's where having good testers comes into play and relieves the stress from the developer, because a good tester's job is to literally mill down to the core problem of what's causing it. So a tester will actually go, okay, here's a bug that I've found. How often can I get this to happen? Once I've gotten it down to 100%, let me start stripping away layers of things that make this not, still happen. But like, okay, I was hitting W and space and shooting at the same time. What happens if I hit W space and don't shoot? What happens if I hit W and shoot but don't jump? What happens if I hit jump and shoot? And so we play around in those areas to really define down exactly what's causing the problem, so that the developers can then go and look at that and go, oh, I know exactly what chunk of code I need to modify to do this. That's where testers play a big role. And that's why you want those repro steps and a really finite steps of this is exactly what causes it. And if you have understanding of programming or the code side of things or 3D modeling or animating, being able to use that knowledge and that wording and phrasing that they're used to can really help them out, because then your bug pops out so much more and helps people out.
Yeah, that saves so much time on the other end. Yeah.
Yes.
No, you're totally right.
And that's why, I mean, for a small company like Stars Reach, the developers are the testers, and that is where their job is really hard. What's made it easier is now that they're in the test phases, it's the players going in, finding those bugs, putting in the bug reports, that developers probably feel a lot more relaxed. Have you seen that change in the developers, of them feeling more relaxed since the testing started, since you've been with the company for so long?
No, they were always pretty stressed out. No, I do know that they really do appreciate it, because like I've seen the Slack messages, like especially Rod will write in there all the time, like, hey, this person was able to recreate it, and like now like the community is trying to do this and trying to fix this, and like Georgeson or Pitkin or Raf will jump in and be like, hey, see if they can try this or something like that with Rod. And so like I know for a fact that's a big deal, like over on the other end. But like, yeah, they're always like super stressed about, I got to get this in, I got to do this, I got to fix this.
Definitely. And when you were mentioning about Raf coming in and saying, hey, let's see if you can get, if this changes how things work and stuff like that. When I submit a bug as a professional game tester to the developer, and actually I'm working for the company, that's actually how they respond back. Okay, yeah, this was a lot of grateful information, but what if you try this, which is similar to this? And stuff like that. And so they'll give us more steps to go and try. And then my job is to go, okay, let me go do that while they continue their work, and then I report back to them. That's why it's called a bug report. But the other thing is that I really like is how the developers are sort of responding to the players with feedback is really nice. The fact that we're given little sneak peeks of stuff to come. We're given some teasers. We're, like I said earlier, we're treated as we're part of the team. Is really, really nice. And I'm pretty sure you're happy that we're not, because that's a huge amount of more employees you have to deal with. Instead, you can sit there and go, Thomas, you go handle that. And how often do you do that? Go, hey, Thomas, there's a problem over here. You might or is Thomas just always on top of things and you're perfectly
No,
right?
I gotta be honest. Like Thomas is pretty self-sufficient. Like he's really on top of things. Yeah, like usually by the time I'm already starting work and checking Slack, Thomas will be like, hey, Justin, I have this video already up and like some wording for it. Can you post this on all the social media? I also got to go jump into Discord for this. And I'm like, he's like in full action, so.
Yeah, Thomas is one of those developers that's wearing so many hats. He does the live stream engineering. He does the videos. He does the editing. And then he's the community manager. So that's 4 hats he's wearing.
Yeah.
I mean, people hear, oh, well, you're a texture artist, or you're a 3D modeler, or you're an animator, or you're a network engineer coder, or you're a physics coder. That's true when you work at big companies. You get them who are just specialized, and that's all that they do is that one thing.
Totally.
Whereas in small companies like, Playable Worlds, Your texture artist is also going to be your 3D modeler. They're also going to be your rigger. They're going to be your skinner. They're going to be your have some touch on animations. They're going to be sometimes concept artists, things like that. Your network engineer is also going to know a bit of how to work with the rendering code and stuff like that. You have to wear multiple hats. I know that you're the head of the HR. Do you wear any other hats in the company?
Yeah, and so like our whole admin team definitely does. So like I'm in all of the marketing and social media meetings, and like that's my thing kind of on the side is posting on, you know, Blue Sky, X, Facebook, Threads, and Instagram, and then like checking comments and stuff. And if there's like questions I don't know, it's talking to Carneros or, you know, Rick, or, you know, bringing it to one of the engineers or something and asking them about it. And like Nina is like, you know, kind of the person that's in charge of the admin side, but she's also in all of the engineering meetings too, and exec meetings. And then like Magic handles finance, and she's the office manager, but she's also in the social media meetings. And like when they do the giveaways, she's the one that's like getting the address and like sending the like shirt or hat or whatever to the individual. So yeah, it's all like those multiple hats and everything.
Okay, and you know, when Dave Jordanson wins a prize,
that was unbelievable, right? I was cracking up.
I remember watching that. Yeah, you guys even talked about it yesterday in the live stream of A Day in the Life of the Devs, which you guys need to watch. I'm going to have a link down in the description for that, because you literally get to see more than, because Justin's there, but then there's other people like Magic that's there, Lernick is there, Thomas is there, and they're all talking about their different roles within the company. Because a lot of people think that a game development company is just nothing but game developers working on a game. For a very small independent project, yes, that is true. Because they can't afford a finance person. They can't afford an HR person. It's just a group of friends working together on a game. But when you get to that next level, that's where you need people like Justin, who does HR, to make sure that you're not violating any laws, especially human rights laws and stuff like that. And then you need someone like Magic, who does your finances, and then Nina to oversee all of these administrative people, and then you have the developers.
Yeah,
you know, that's totally very important. You know, the one thing that upsets me in the industry is when you get those executives that come from other industries and know nothing, never played a video game in their lives, and then they try to influence what they want to see in the game. That always seems to ruin it. But when you get someone who's a passionate player of the game, you know, loves video games, gets into that executive role, and then sort of tries to mention things, that I'm fine with that, because then that's just a fan of games stating their mind. Whereas these executives are, you know, you get these executives like, oh, we're doing this game. Well, we can make more money if we throw in microtransactions. They're not thinking about the fan. They're thinking about the money. Whereas you, someone like you, Nina, and Magic, you guys are more of looking at as what would be better for the fan base and what would look out there. I really like that. And I think that's where I'm most positive about the way the monetization of the game's going to work. Because I've never seen Raph work on a game, or any of the developers work on a game, that had a really browbeating monetization. Most of the times it's a fair monetization. And my question to you is, you know, would you ever work for a company that was in the direction of, or have you worked for a company that was in the direction of forget the customers. Let's focus on the money. And if so, how quickly did you leave that job?
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm trying to think. Yeah, I was at a call center that was a little bit like that, where
It
they
doesn't
really,
surprise me one bit. Let me guess, shoulder to shoulder, back to back.
yeah, yeah, and they really didn't. Not only that, but they didn't really care about the employees
Mm-hmm.
either. Like they were like, "Hey, as long as this gets done, like who cares?" And now we're charging extra prices for this, and like a lot of their changes didn't make sense. It
Mm-hmm.
was more, instead of like customer service, it ended up changing to call times were measured.
Yep.
Like quicker you're on, quicker you're off, like,
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
and no, I did not stay there very long. I
Yeah.
was like,
I
it was always an uphill battle fighting for the employees.
yeah.
And so
And the other thing is I'm pretty sure their turnover rate was really, really high.
you nailed it. It's extremely high.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like people, and like their retention rate wasn't very high either. Like
Yeah.
basically people lasted like 3 months and
Exactly.
then time to move on.
Whereas, I'm pretty sure at Playable Worlds, your retention rate and your turnover rate is really, really low. We're talking
Totally.
single digits.
Yeah. And that's like one of the big things of me like checking in on people. It's more of there's actually, I don't think I've ever had a conversation where I'm like, hey, you've taken a lot of PTO days. We really need to talk about this. Instead, it's, hey, you really do need to take a PTO day. Like you've been working way too many hours, Like, and that's legit. That's really,
Yeah,
that really happens.
And that's something that I want to hear down in the comments. How often have you heard HR come up to you and say, hey, you need to take your PTO?
Yeah.
And if so, how does that make you feel? Because when you have someone like Justin coming up to you and saying, hey, you need to take PTO, I'm pretty sure you feel really good and feel respected at the company. And that's where I'm on disability because of my cerebral palsy and my age. And so I'm growing my own company because I can't sit and stand for 8 hours a day. I've applied for a job and there's like, oh yeah, you can do the job laying in your bed because you're just working on a keyboard and mouse and with a graphics tablet, but we need to see you sitting at that desk. As soon as I saw Playable Worlds working on Stars Reach, I was like, okay, once I get myself good enough to where I can get myself at regular basic working standards of constantly working, this is the one place, this is the first place I would go and apply for a job because I see the way they respect their employees, the way they respect that community. Those are the companies that I jump to the quickest. Because I'm pretty sure, and you being in HR, you can tell me this. I'm pretty sure they adjust and accommodate to a worker's needs. Because I'm pretty sure when you have people with disability needs or needs like that, you guys adjust to them. Because I've had workplaces where it's been, I got fired, even though I could have done my job from home laying in bed.
No, and like not only just disabilities, but even like with children and stuff, like as long as it's not during like one of the like full company meetings with like stand up or something that we really can't move around, like put it on the calendar, like, hey, I'm not available at 4 o'clock every evening till 4:45 because I have to pick my kids up from school or what, and like not a big deal. Like, you do what you need to do. And same thing with disabilities and everything. Like, as long as you're able to like answer the Slack messages and like be at meetings that you need to be at, then like if you do most of your work at midnight, cool,
Yeah, and I thought that originally. I'm glad to hear that because when I worked at Microsoft Game Studios, the first thing that surprised me was how they treat their employees. The way they treat their employees is, as long as you get your 8 hours of work done and you're here when there's most of the crunch time is needed, unless like emergency comes up or you have the flu or something like that, We don't care if you have to leave for an hour or two to go to a doctor's appointment or to go to your kid's swim meet or anything like that. Just get that 8 hours. And they knew in that 8 hours time, they expect 6 hours worth of actual work to get done.
Mm.
And things like that. And so, and what really surprised me is they said, look, even if you have just the basic cold, stay home. Do not bring that to work and get other people sick, because then you'll spread that out. And yeah, you'll be working, but then you put out like 2 to 10 other people, and we're going to sort. So stay home, get yourself better, and then come back. And someone brought up, do I need a doctor's note? And they're like, no. We understand people get sick. They didn't have this point system of you get, you take a day out, you're out a day, you get a point. You get so many points, you're fired. That didn't exist. Do you know how relaxed I felt at my job coming from call centers where that's literally how it worked, was you were given so many points, you accrue these points, you're fired. No ifs, ands, or buts. To going to working something like that, it sounds like Stars Reach and Playable Worlds is that earlier that I mentioned, like with Microsoft, where it's very relaxed. And I'm pretty sure that makes the employees feel more relaxed. Am I right?
Yeah. And no, you're totally right. And I think a lot of it too also has to do with hiring the right employees that aren't going to like take advantage of a situation like that, and like once you have that in place, like it's definitely like much more relaxed, instead of, like, hey, you were like 2 minutes late for this meeting, like now you have a point. Like, instead it's like, oh, what did you get done? Oh, you did all of this? Oh, this is awesome.
Exactly. It should be what you got done, not were you here in these hours. I mean, if my companies take off, I plan on hiring disabled people. I don't care if they're laying in a bed. That doesn't bother me because I've been in that position. I care about, did you get the job done within the time frame that we had, maybe going a little bit beyond, gotta be flexible with that and stuff like that. But within in a timely, nice manner, that's all that should matter. I'm glad to hear that that's the way Stars Reach looks at things, because that makes it more comfortable, like you said, for the employees. The employees aren't stressing out about things like that and stuff like that. So I can see why the turnaround in new updates and bug fixes is so quick.
Because
I'm of the thought of, if you put stress on the employees, worrying about points, worrying about losing their jobs and stuff like that, their mind isn't fully focused on the job. Whereas if you're not giving them, you have to work this many hours from this to this, you got these points you have to worry about, they're not worrying about all that stuff. And they're able just to, I get to work when I need to, when I want to work. As long as I get my job done, then the job gets done quicker and better.
No, totally. And like, I've been in those situations where they do the points at like manufacturing or foundries and stuff. And like, it doesn't just stress the employee out. Like, let's say the employee's an awesome worker and they're on 9 points and 10 points, you're terminated. And now like the manager's coming to me and the manager's like, I'm stressed out because I can't lose this good worker on my, my department. And I'm stressed out because there's nothing I can do about it. So like, like now the whole department is, the admin team is, so it can cause some issues. And like, I don't know, it's tough.
I've been there. I had a job where I was working call center and I was doing a really good job, but I was getting into my 40s, and so my cerebral palsy started acting up and I started having those muscle cramps and stuff like that, and the muscles would lock up and pinch on my sciatic nerve whenever I was sitting or standing, because it was a sitting, standing job. Couldn't lay down, no place to lay down. I would have to call in every so often to rest up my back, to relax those muscles to be able to go back to work. If I pushed through the pain, it would just get worse, and that nerve would get inflamed more and more and more, cause me to miss more and more days. And at this job, we actually had laptops that during snow days, we could work from home and do our job. And so I asked my manager, I said, look, I know I'm missing days because of my back problem and stuff like that, but you notice I never miss a snow day. In fact, when people are actually calling out sick because their internet isn't working correctly that day due to the snowstorm, I'm working extra hours. I'm working 10, 12 hours to help out with this to get more work done. And I'm more reliable on snow days than I am on regular days. Can we make it so that I'm able to work from home when I'm having a bad back day so I can still work? My manager loved the ideas. The executives said no because they didn't want to give me the options of what the leads are able to do because they thought that that was a special privileges for leads and managers and shouldn't be given to employees no matter what.
Yeah.
It was a sad thing. Here's the funny thing. 2 years later, COVID hits and lockdown hits, and they're forced to make everyone work from home. That's the problem I have with executives. Whereas the executives at Playable Worlds, they're all gaming enthusiasts. They're all about the people, not pinching for every penny and dime. And I really like that because I see the enthusiasm in like you talking with you, hearing Nina and Magic and stuff like that. You guys are excited and smiling and joking around and stuff like that. That's nice to see. Because you don't see that from every executive. You see these straight-faced, tight-tied, executives. You're sitting here talking to me right now, and you got a Stars Reach t-shirt on.
No, well, you know what? When I first started, like maybe the first couple months, every day I wore a tie and a dress shirt. And finally, Raph said during one of his office hours, and there were a couple of employees in there, and he's like, hey, you gotta stop wearing the tie, you're making everyone nervous. So from then on I stopped wearing the tie. But I was so used to wearing a shirt and tie all the time, so
and that's the thing. When I was working for that Microsoft Game Studio and you went in for the interviews, if you were wearing just comfortable clothes, like jeans and a t-shirt, especially a gaming t-shirt, they'd come in, here for the game testing job? Yes, I am. If you came in dressed in a suit and tie, but we're going for that game testing job, they'd look at you and go, marketing or HR? And then you go, oh, no, game development. They're like, oh, okay. And a bit confused. And so hearing that someone from HR is saying, you're used to the suit and tie, and that Raph is like, look, get rid of that stuff. That's not how we are. That's not who we are. and seeing Nina wearing the t-shirts and Magic wearing the t-shirts because she was wearing one in yesterday's live stream and stuff like that just shows that he wants the entire environment of the company to be comfortable, to be enjoyable, to work with. And as I stated at the beginning of the video, this has to make your job that much easier.
So much easier. Yeah. And I mean, people aren't stepping on eggshells and stuff. And it definitely makes it easier. It makes it easier too that managers are approachable and that, it's not hey, if they find a bug and they're like, hey, you did this incorrectly, can you do this? It's like a conversation. It's not a lecture. And so, I mean, I think that makes it easier to come up with new ideas. It makes it easier for the employees to relax and be themselves and actually get more done. So I think it's just a really good atmosphere.
Well, also, they're probably more willing to share ideas. Because there's companies where you feel that if you share an idea, you're just going to be browbeaten or dismissive
Yeah.
Whereas with
No,
ref, it's the opposite.
one of my first jobs working as an attorney, the managing partner, like I would have like I was a brand new attorney. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know like a ton of things. So like I would walk into his office, and as soon as I walked into his office, he would start going like this, like, hurry up, hurry up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have time for this. And I'd be like, you know what? I'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
And like, so then like I wasn't getting like good advice. I was like just trying to like figure things out myself. But that's never the situation with us.
And that's really great because, I mean, at times I feel bad when I'm reaching out to Cornelius and saying I'm ready for the next interview because I know you guys are extremely busy. But the great thing is Cornelius is always coming back and saying, "Oh yeah, let's figure out who you can interview next and who's up to it." He doesn't want anyone feeling uncomfortable. He doesn't force people to do the interviews, which I have complete respect for. I don't want people feeling uncomfortable in these interviews. I want, and that's the reason why I hold them as a conversation piece, is to make it more relaxing and enjoyable. And I want it to be a fun experience for everyone.
No, totally. And I was going to say earlier, like when you were talking about that,
Mm-hmm.
like you have to figure, like, yeah, viewers tuned into Johnny Carson to hear this celebrity talk tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But they also tuned in because they like Johnny Carson and they want to
Mm-hmm.
hear him talk and tell a story. And you have to figure a lot of your viewers are the same way. They like controlled chaos. Like I like hearing about your stories, so like it's a good mix.
It is, and that's part of the fun. And I'm not doing it because I don't have this big ego that I'm this all great entertainer and fun person. No, I'm an average guy. The way I'm acting here is the way I act out in the real world. And so if you ever recognize the voice, you'll recognize that I'm this same person. And a lot of people, there are those YouTubers that put on this fake persona, and that's disappointment. But just like we've been talking about with HR, there's these different companies that handle things in different ways. And people think I'm nerdy and I'm geeky and I sound that way. Well, yes, I am. And I'm proud of it. I have fun with it. I mean, I'm looking at your back wall with the lights. You have an Indiana Jones and the Back to the Future. You played video games. You read comics. I'm pretty sure when City of Heroes came out, you played City of Heroes. Am I right?
No, you're totally right. I have a bunch of like comic book on the wall over here and stuff too. So no, yeah, you're right.
Exactly. But that's the thing. When we originally grew up, being nerdy wasn't a popular thing. Being geeky wasn't a popular thing in the 80s and the 90s. It was sort of looked down at. And then in the 2000s, that started shifting. And we became more popular and respected and things like that. And now the stuff that was looked bad on in the past is now looked on positively, such as playing video games, Marvel comics, DC comics, you got the movies going on and stuff like that. The world's changed, and in good ways and bad ways. And I think one of the greatest things is that Star's Reach is sort of moving things in a positive way, because it's going to show how players can influence the world, how people influence the world, and how the environment works and how we affect the environment. And it's a game that will teach people without people knowing that they're being taught something new or learning something new.
Totally. No, totally. And that was like when I like first started playing the game, like someone was like, "Oh, why do I need this or whatever?"
Mm-hmm.
And Ras like, "Well, you need to mix mercury with sand to create this, and like once you create this, you can use it to create this." I was like, "Whoa, wait, is this guy a biology professor?"
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
How does he know all these things? And like he's talking about like minerals and chemicals that I've never even heard of, So I'm like, man, this is cool.
Well, it's like the PVQRV stats in the game. and how those affect your weapons. And yeah, we got you can have two Omni Blasters sitting there that look exactly the same, but the way they behave is completely different. One can do more damage where the other one shoots faster or has more durability and things like that. Just interests me, and it's all based off of, once again, those resources that you use. And the fact that I also like about the crafting system, in most games, it's put the resource in, get the item. In Star Wars Galaxies, in this game, it's put the resource in, get this item, use this item, mix it with this item and this item to build this item, and this is your finished product. Mm. I really like that, because especially in Star Wars Galaxies, where you had so many of those items, you needed to have a tailor to make you the cloth for something. You need to have a woodworker to make the wood for the parts you needed for the frame of what you're making, and then you made the metal parts and put the whole entire thing together. So crafters were reaching out to crafters to get other parts and materials, and those crafters were reaching out to harvesters to get the big bulks of the materials they need to make the part that they needed to give to the other crafter. And it was this not one link chain of this person buys this and that person makes it. It was this person buys this from this person or orders this from that person then contracts out this person and this person and this person to all make these three different parts. Those people then go out and say, hey, I need people to harvest those materials for me. And it just causes a deeper chain in the whole entire gameplay mechanic that I really like. I mean,
it's like real life.
Yeah.
Like the supply chain, and everything affects everything.
It does, and it's something that I very few games you see that in. In the several decades I've been playing games, I can think of one other game that has something like that. Well, guess who it was made by? It's Star Wars Galaxies, and it was made by Raph. There's no other game that's done it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's other gameplay mechanics that he's done that really interest me and that I like that no one else has done. And it surprises me that the game industry doesn't look at the work that's being done and go, we need to do more of this. I think once the game gets out there, and if it gets really big, that's when the bigger companies are going to look at and go, we need to replicate that. There's something going on here. We need to find out why and go that direction. And that's where I think your job's going to start getting tougher, because the company's going to get bigger. And as the company gets bigger, that means more employees. And that means more work for you, where you may even have to bring in more HR people. And in all honesty, I hate to say this to you, but I hope that happens.
No, I hope it happens too. Like, I know it means more work and everything, but it means like Raph's ambitions are coming true,
Yeah.
And I mean, at this point, I'm really, I'm rooting for myself to continue having a job, but I'm really rooting for Raph, just getting to know him and seeing how much he cares about this project and everything. It's hard not to root for him. And so more work, awesome. I still stay employed. I continue to grow, but awesome that Raph's accomplishing what he's dreamed about for a while now.
Oh, more than a while. We're talking several decades.
Yeah.
This is a man that he has a dream, and he's going to continue to work towards that dream of what he sees. Because it was back even in the mud days that he had saw this dream. And he continues to push the boundaries of it. Most MMOs are stagnant. They're rinse and repeat of one another. It's very few developers that push the edge and the envelope of what MMOs are. And it's been a long time since we've really had that edge push. What's happening now of a lot of development cycles is they're going backwards in doing things. We got Pantheon, which is going back to the way EQ did things. We have Monsters and Memories going back to the way EQ did things to bring those social aspects. What I like that Dave is doing is he's going, well, let's keep with the social aspects we had in Star Wars Galaxies and Ultima Online. Let's bring back some of those mechanics that we had to take away because we didn't have the knowledge that we have now of the extinction of animals and stuff like that. And they came up with new gameplay mechanics on how to solve that problem. And then they had stack on top of that a simulated living world that players can manipulate and change. That's pushing things forward. And that's why I think this is going to be a success. And you're like me. You probably look at a company that's just getting started, that's just getting small, and you take your bet on that company. Even though that there's a chance that it could shut down at any time, but you want to see it succeed because then you know that you were a small part in helping that succeed.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think it also is a lot of like, even when I was doing my interview, meeting these people and seeing like their passion for the project and stuff, it made it worth like the risk, you know? And hey, you know, at that point in time, obviously there were no guarantees about even releasing a trailer or anything.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is I was like, I want to work with these type of people. Like these are like the people that really care about their work and like they're there for you. They care about the employees. And like, even if it doesn't work, it's still going to be a great experience, you know? So.
Exactly. And I'm going to state one more thing and then we'll go ahead and end this conversation because we've actually been talking about this a little bit longer than an hour. But when I worked at Microsoft Game Studios, that actually started out as to get a contract with Microsoft Game Studios to run a test facility. And it was a temp agency doing this. And the interesting thing is they looked at it differently. They didn't look at it as let's fill seats. They're like, let's go to local colleges. Let's get college students who are learning programming for games, college students who are learning 3D modeling, college students who are learning texturing and all these different aspects and animation, and put them in the seats of testers so that they can use their knowledge to better describe bugs. And that's actually what caused Microsoft to choose us, is they saw the way we were PKing people and the way it was different. And they saw better written bugs, more detailed, easier to understand by the developers bugs, but also simple enough for the average person to be able to read. And that was very impressive to them. The funny thing is that when this job was announced at my college, all of my classmates said, oh no, I'll never get that position. Oh no, we'll never get that project. So it's only a 6 weeks job of experience. What's the point of that? And I looked at that and I'm like, the worst they're going to say to me is, no, I'm not the right fit for the job. And if I do get it, yeah, it's 6 weeks of experience, but it's 6 weeks of experience I wouldn't have had if I didn't apply for the job. So something's better than nothing.
Totally.
2 years later, working for the company, 300 employees, college classmates constantly thanking me, everyone else coming in thanking me because I did take that risk and I did take that chance. And I even had, people were confused when a new lead would come in, they'd shake my hand, they're like, thank you for doing this. Thank you for making it so I have this job. That impressed me the most. And
that is so cool.
So happy with that. I mean, you probably feel the same way when you come in and take these HR jobs and you're treating people with human dignity and respect and knowing their names. I'm pretty sure you get a lot of thank yous too for what you do.
Yeah, no, and like that was one of the biggest things. Like I went from being the attorney and moving back to Indiana. I hadn't taken the Indiana State Bar, so I kind
Mm,
of fell into human resources. But like almost immediately, it was way more rewarding than working as the attorney, where
mm,
like I had people complaining about I didn't get enough in a settlement.
mm,
Instead, it was people being like, hey, like thanks for like fighting for us to get that extra PTO, or hey, thanks for double checking my paycheck and making sure that I got the extra $25 I should have gotten. So
mm.
like definitely like that's way more rewarding than like earning more money or anything like that. But like you know getting the like reward of seeing other people be happy.
See, that's where me and you are very similar. I think that's the reason we've been having so much fun with this. Is a job to me isn't just a paycheck.
Mhm.
It's helping others out, whether it's a customer or a coworker, is
Definitely.
very important to me, and I feel more fulfilled at my job when I help someone out. And like I mentioned, it could be customer service, helping a customer out, or when I was working at Microsoft Game Studios, we were testing a game that had 3D with the 3D TVs.
Mhm.
And one of the testers knew that I have an eye disability where my eyes shake. And I had mentioned that 3D causes it to shake way worse. So they come up to me and said, hey, can I use you as, and they laughed, a guinea pig, and you play using the 3D? I want to see how this affects your eyes. I want to see if we can do even better in the 3D elements of this interaction of this game. And I said, yeah,
Mhm.
sure. It's just when I say, hey, I'm starting to get a headache, we stop. That way I don't get a migraine and I'm out of work.
For sure.
And they said, yeah, definitely. That lets me know that, how to push the boundaries. We'd actually gotten the 3D so locked in that I could play instead of half an hour's time, I was playing for 4 hours time and not even recognizing it.
Wow. I mean, just think how cool that was and like how it helped other,
Exactly.
people later down the road.
And people with normal sight were like, wow, this 3D is so amazing on this TV and stuff like that. And they got praises and stuff like that. I felt so good in being able to help that tester out. It wasn't the fact that, I worked on this game and it's announced some of the best 3D work. It's the fact that I got to help that person out. Just like when I worked at a call center, I'd help a 90-year-old lady get her internet back online. My pay was
Mm.
crap. It sucked. The joy was in helping the customers get back online. Was it every time? No. But that's when I really enjoyed my job. And just like you said, with this whole entire HR and going from being a lawyer to the HR, yeah, your pay was better as a lawyer, but you're feeling your job's more fulfilling being in HR because you get to help out the employees. And I
Totally.
greatly respect that. And I can see why Playable Worlds would bring you on as an HR manager, because the way they work and the way you work meshes together so well. And, you're probably sitting there smiling the whole entire time because you're like, I get to play a video game company. I get to play with video games every so often. And the fact that your voice, even though you're not a developer, you mentioned earlier in the interview that even though you're not a developer, your comments, your thoughts, and your feedback is actually heard all the way to the very top by Raph and reconsidered and looked at and like, oh, wait a second, this could improve our game.
Yeah.
When Raph does something like that, that's just, I know you're not probably showing it physically, but in your mind, you're like,
No, totally. I think I showed it physically too. I think I was like, oh yeah.
and then this Raph giving you that odd eyeball, but he's used to people doing it.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the thing, and that's what makes working at a job fun, and I appreciate that you do that, and how you do things. And in all honesty, if I ever get to that place where I can actually find the right position at Playable Worlds to apply for, I'm so easily applying for it so quickly, because talking to you, awesome. It's like, I was like, okay, this looks and sounds like a great place. But when you talk to the HR manager and you get a chance to really get a feel for how they do things, that's when you get a sense of things. And you gave a sense of, it's exactly what I thought it was, and then some.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you see a position available at Playable Worlds and you're wanting to be in the games industry in some way, shape, or form, apply for that job. The worst that's going to happen is they're just going to say, no, not this time, and they'll probably give you the reason why, or you get hired and you get to work with great people like Jonathan here and Magic and John Owl and John Brown and Rodney and David and stuff like that, and you won't regret it.
Totally.
And
I don't regret my decision at all. Like, this has been the best job I've had.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is my dad always mentioned to me, if you work in an industry that you have a sort of a hobby feel for, on doing something you love, you actually don't work a day in your life because it doesn't feel like you're going to work. Is that the way it feels for you at Playable Worlds?
Yeah, no, it really is. Like, I used to always, like, on Sunday afternoon, get those like Sunday blues and stuff, but I never get them anymore. Like, it's always like, oh, cool. Like, what are we going to talk about on Monday morning in the admin meeting and on stand up? Like, I'm excited. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, Justin, I want to thank you for your time and taking so much time for us talking about HR and what you do, and the sort of the back end of the company and about the game. Everyone have a great day.
Well, and Control Chaos.
Yeah.
I wanted to also thank you. Like, thanks for taking so much time. Thanks for like interviewing everyone and like really getting into the game and stuff. And like, your knowledge of the game is awesome, and like helping test it and everything. So like, thank you for everything you do, but especially thank you for taking the time with me today. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that. And in all honesty, these interviews, I actually look forward to. I have so much fun geeking out about the game and the industry and stuff like that. And because you're in HR and you've done you've worked in customer service industries and stuff like that, that's another passion I have, is customer service. I like helping out other people, and that's the reason I run this channel, and it's predominantly guides. I was just lucky enough at the right time to be able to do these interviews. And like I said earlier, I took that risk. I asked Corneros, can I interview some of the developers? And I got the yes. I was prepared for the no. The no doesn't hurt me in any way, shape, or form. Will I feel a little sad because I was told no? Yeah, but in the long run, no damage done. But the way I see these is, the interviews are done, people get to meet the developers and learn more about the company and the behind the scenes. It is a great thing. And so, without you guys saying yes, and people like you stepping up and saying, yeah, sure, I'll be interviewed, I wouldn't be able to do this. So, thank you for being willing to be interviewed. And for those that are shy, I understand. Don't feel bad. As a kid, I used to be very, very shy, and something changed in me, and I'm not as shy anymore. But that's a personal thing for me. So don't feel bad if you're like, well, I'm too shy. But if you feel that you want to push the boundaries of your shyness, I'm more than welcome you to come on and be interviewed. I'm going to treat you with respect. You're a person, and if you're uncomfortable with a question or uncomfortable talking about something, always let me know. I can always cut that section out. You know, I want people to feel comfortable. And that's also, like I said earlier, the reason I do these in a conversational way is it's a more relaxing way of doing an interview. It's a more funner way. I've seen you laughing many times and getting excited, and that makes me feel good.
Awesome.
You know, that's where the fun is. So I appreciate you bringing that up. It made me feel good, which just shows once again how good of an HR person Justin is. He's the type of HR person you want working for you. He is about the employees, not the employers, and he just showed it right there. So once again, thank you for your time. Everyone, have a great day.